Hi everyone. So I have a follow-up in part two in the follow-up part two video following the interview I had with Ian Bick. But first and foremost, I just want to acknowledge that, a life was taken. It wasn't lost, it was taken from a family, and I'm not blind to that. And I respect the family, and I don't wear this, this case or, the, the narratives of being a ride or die. I don't wear that as a badge of honor at all. And to be quite transparent, I'm very ashamed to even be connected to this case, although involuntarily. And I just want that to be very clear. And I hope that this part two video answers a lot of questions and fills in a lot of the gaps that I left out with my interview with Ian. Well, my name is Angelica Johnson. Everybody knows me as Angel. I just had an interview with Ian Bick, and first and foremost, thank you, Ian, for letting me come into your space and creating a safe space for me to share my story for the first time. So I do thank you, Ian, for that and for the support. There was a lot of things that I did not go into details about in my interview, and that was my first time talking about everything. I didn't know what to expect going into the interview. I was more focused on, the things that I've done after prison and the things that I've overcame while incarcerated. And I was focused on, on my nonprofit and all of the good things that I am sharing my story for. And I wasn't ready, and I wasn't prepared, and I didn't know what to expect, and I just wasn't ready to answer the questions in regards to the crime itself. And just me as a person, I'm very reserved, and it's difficult for me to just be transparent, especially in front of a camera. So thank you for being patient with me on that. And in this video, I want you all to see, the real me. I want you to, but I want to be more transparent in this video because I was not as transparent in my last video. I never lied about anything, but I definitely was not as transparent, and I hope this fills in a lot of the gaps that a lot of people have. So we are going to start with a little bit of just a brief background, a little bit more about me and my upbringing. As I said before in my interview, I come from a two-parent household. I am from Vallejo, California. Of course, everyone knows it from, Mac Dre and all the other, great artists from there. And it's a very small city in California, in the Bay Area. I have a younger sibling who's 5 years younger than me. And I grew up with my mom's side of the family, and we were very, very close-knit. My mom and my dad were exceptional parents. They were exceptional parents. They raised me and my brother correct. They raised us with, the utmost morals. They didn't raise us to, to lie and steal and, all of these, all of the bad things. They always, taught us right, tell the truth, be honest, be respectable, respect others. All of the good things that I'm pretty sure most parents teach their children. And I went to middle school and high school and elementary school in Vallejo. I played volleyball, as I stated in my last interview with Ian. I was involved in sports. I was going to a college program. It was called Willie B. Back in high school, which was like a college prep program for African American children to go to HBCUs and stuff like that. And I just had a really, good upbringing. I wasn't rich or or I wasn't poor. My parents did everything and then some for us, and they never led us wrong. My father was more of the straightforward parent. He was a very hardworking man. He still is to this day. Very honest, very noble in some ways, and very knowledgeable. He didn't lie to us about anything, including from being, very young. And he's like, so you really believe in Santa Claus? You really think that someone is coming down? A big man is coming down with presents for you down the chimney. So he was kind of like that. He was like that. He is. Whereas my mom, my mom was she was very much based around love and family. She always saw everybody's perspective. She had a good voice of reason. She loved me and my brother and my dad. She was a very loyal woman to her family, whether it's her kids, her husband, her dog, and anyone involved in her life. She was a great friend to people, and she was also very known in Vallejo as well. She was involved in GVRD, and she loved working with kids. And she was just a really amazing woman. Not to get too much on her and my family, but that is my upbringing, and that plays a key part into who I am and into this story. Because I wasn't raised, I wasn't raised wrong. I wasn't raised with, deceptive morals and things of that sort. So after after this, so middle school and high school, everything was good. That in middle school is where I met my co-defendant, we will call him co-defendant number one, who's also known as the shooter, who was also the shooter in the case. And that is when I met co-defendant number one. And that was in like 6th, 7th grade. We're kids back then. We were friends. We had the same circle of friends. He was just a regular kid. We were all regular kids. We all played sports. We're just regular kids and just friends. We were just friends. And then we went to high school together, and he left high school and went somewhere else in around like 9th grade, and we lost contact. And we reconnected after my senior year, a few months after my senior year. And yeah, we reconnected, and he was different from when, obviously from high school. When I initially first reconnected with him, it seemed like he was okay. We met, and he was at a house, and it seemed like it was stable and everything was good. I thought it was his, and later on down the line, as time passed, he was not as stable as I thought. He was moving from like house to house, and he was involved, in the streets, because he was, kicked out of his house, moving house to house, and he ran to the streets like most, young men do. A lot of young black men may do. And to the extent of knowing what he was doing in the streets, I did not know. I just knew that, he was down bad and out. And because we were friends, and I've known him since we were kids, and I had that like picture of him before, I wanted to help him, and also that we were developing an intimate relationship. I wanted to help him get off of the streets, and that's what a lot of young women do. We think that we can save somebody, usually someone that we are, developing intimate relationships with, and feelings for, and I could not save him from the streets as much as I wanted to. I was going to college when we reconnected, and because I had this, this image of him when we were younger, and I just saw like, I see the potential and what you could do. You're not like this. Why are you on the streets? Like, you need to be somewhere stable, and you used to play football. You're actually, you're very smart. Why don't you come down to college with me and move out here and go to college and get your life back on track, because this is not what life is about. And unfortunately, it did not turn out that way. And it did not turn out that way. And the first time that met the actual victim, who was co-defendant number one's friend. That is how I met the victim in this case. To my knowledge, they were friends. They were close friends for a long time. And we met. I just met him. That's a month before the actual crime, and it was just super casual. We met in Vacaville with his friends, the victim's friends, and me and co-defendant number one and our friends, and we just went to the Vacaville outlets around Thanksgiving, and just had some food at BJ's, and it was just super casual, and that was the first time I met the victim. The second time that I met the victim was the day of the actual crime. I picked up co-defendant number one from his house, just after they played games or whatever, but I had no relationship with the victim, just that interaction of just first meeting him. And the day of the actual incident, I was at home, and co-defendant number one, he called me in the morning, and he said he needed a ride and needed to use my car. And I'm like, okay, right? I didn't think nothing much of it. So I went and I went to go pick him up, and co-defendant number one, he got in the car, as well as co-defendant number two. And he said it was, I had to pick up some weed, or it was like a weed deal. I'm like, okay, all right. So we go to the victim's house, and co-defendant number one went up into the apartments, and him and the victim came back to the car. I'm not sure what was said, but they came back to the car, and we drove to the park. We smoked a little bit, and then we drove to the park. Once we got to the park, we smoked a little bit, and co-defendant number one and the victim, they got out of the car, and they continued to smoke, and they walked off behind the car, into the park. And and a few minutes maybe went by, and that's when I heard the shots. And co-defendant number two was still in the car, and I was like, drive, and I reactively drove. And I was scared too. I reactively just drive away from gunshots. I didn't think, there's gunshots, let me get out of the car and see what's happening. I did not have that reaction. It was more of a flight instead of going to, see what's going on. And I drove off, and co-defendant number one, he came out of the park, and he came out alone. And he got in the car, and I didn't see him have, a gun. I didn't see like blood or anything on him. But he got in the car, and I'm like, like what happened? And they're like, go. And I went. And co-defendant number one told me where to drive to drop him off. And I dropped him off. And then I went home because this was my mom's car. And I went home, and I just was in shock. I put it together in my head. I wasn't 1,000%, sure that, the victim in the case, that he was dead. But from co-defendant number one getting into the car and the victim not coming with him out of the park, and by them telling me, to go, and just, the whole vibe, it didn't feel right. That's when I put it together in my head that something happened to him, and he was killed. Something happened if we just left him, and they're saying go, and we heard shots, and it could have been somebody else, that happened, but it just didn't feel right. Because I did not see the shooting, but I did hear it, and I just put it together in my head. So when I was home after the shooting, I just got down on my knees and just really just broke down, and I was just praying like no, there's no way. Like please God, there's no way that what I think happened, really happened. And it did happen. And after that, I should have called, the police, and, told them that, a crime happened, but I was in such shock of everything. I was shocked that this happened, that there was a shooting. I was shocked that, the person that I'm dating snaked and killed his friend. I was scared of what would happen to me, what co-defendant number one would do to me after that. I was scared of what would happen to me in regards to the law and the police. It's like, this looks bad. This looks really bad. Will they believe me? I didn't know what would happen to me. I wasn't sure what would happen to my family. And I was like frozen. I was really just like frozen. I do remember, in the morning after the shooting, trying to look it up to just, in a way, just confirm what I felt and what I already kind of knew. And I didn't see anything, until like people started reaching out to co-defendant number one, and you were the last person to be with him, and so after that, we just we did keep in contact after that, after the shooting. I felt like I had to go along with co-defendant number one, because if I did not, then what happened to the victim was going to happen to me. I felt like I had to convince him that, okay, well, now we're in this together, so like he doesn't harm me. Because if he would have had that feeling that I was gonna go to the cops or anything like that, there was really no doubt in my mind that he would harm me, or someone that is in my family, or someone I love. And then we also kept in contact I kept in contact with him because I was also afraid of retaliation from the victim's side. Not saying that they would retaliate or that they have, because they have not, but that's what I was also afraid of. Like, this looks bad. You tied me into this and put me in a bad position where now I just am completely guilty by association, even though I didn't know what was going to happen beforehand. But now it happened, and now I'm involved, although involuntarily, but now I'm involved, period, point blank. So I didn't talk to my dad or my mom or anybody about the crime, because I didn't really know how to, and I didn't want to involve anybody, for fear of just something would happen, or me just getting in trouble for something, or something to be misconstrued, when really I could have just got help. And that was definitely one of my first mistakes, is just getting help, and obviously like reporting the crime. And that wasn't easy for me. It wasn't easy in my head, to get help, to say, I didn't know what to say. Like, hey, mom and dad, can we sit down and talk real quick? Yeah, you remember, the boy I told you I was dating? Yeah, what do you say? We went to pick up his friend, and they were gonna do get some weed, or have a weed deal, and he ended up getting murdered. That's not something that is easy to, at least for me, it was not easy for me to just stay and get help and talk to my family about, or anybody about. So that is what happened in my perspective of the crime. And I am not a victim, but I also was very blind, and I was very blinded about the entire situation beforehand, and even after that. I still don't know why that happened, and only the actual shooter can answer some of those questions as to why that happened and what really happened, in the park. Yeah. After that, I went back to LA to college, and I was in the Bay Area around the November, December time, because it was like a holiday break. So I went back to LA, and I went back to school. And this was not okay, this happened, I'm gonna get on with my life, I'm just gonna go back to school. No, that was not my mindset at all. I was extremely paranoid from everything. My conscience was guilty in the sense that I knew something happened and that there was a crime, and I was involved in some type of way, and I was paranoid about that. And that is when one of the detectives from Vallejo, as I said in the interview with Ian, they arrested me when I was at my college class, and they arrested me, and they charged me with first-degree premeditated murder. And as I said, that's when I lost it. And when I lost it, I was shocked. I was definitely shocked. Not more so of the arrest, but more so of the charge that they were charging me with, which was the mind-blowing thing for me, was the actual charge. And the fact that they, charged my father as well, who had no involvement and no knowledge of the case or the crime at all. So that is when I got arrested, and like I said, I was in LA County for like 3 days, and they transferred me to Solano County, where that's the county where the crime took place. And that's when I began to fight my case. And first degree premeditated felony murder was the only charge I had. As I stated before, the DA did not give me any other deal besides to testify against co-defendant number 1 and co-defendant number 2. And in order to testify against them, I had to say that I had knowledge of the crime before it happened. So basically, they wanted me to say that, I had, a premeditated mindset going into this. And that was not true. And that is not true. So I did not take the deal. Because I did not feel like that was right either, to lie, and say I have this knowledge of a crime before it happened when I don't, just so I can come home and, lock these people away. But to me personally, it wasn't right. It didn't feel right. I saw the ripple effect that this has, that the crime and, going to court, how this affected, the victim's family, first and foremost, how it affected my family, how it affected even co-defendant number 1, co-defendant 2's family, how everybody involved lost. Because in these type of things, everybody loses, because it's senseless, because it's completely senseless. And I fought my case, and we went to trial. So that is why I went to trial, because I did not have any deals. And as I stated before, the trial had a lot of hiccups in it. There was a fight. We did try to, read to the jury the differences between premeditated felony murder and accessory after the fact, because those are two very different things. And as I stated before, that is what I should have been charged with, accessory after the fact. That is what me and Kellen were trying to get, because that is what I did. And I had no issue, taking accountability for the actions of not, reporting the crime afterward. And, which was wrong. And I didn't get a deal. I had, pretty much no choice but to go to trial. And the judge denied us reading the differences of the laws to the jury, and I think that was a huge impact, because they did question it, and I was convicted. And I had a mistrial, and that got denied, and I was sentenced to 25 years to life in state prison, and that was around 2017, and that is when I went to Chowchilla for the rest of my time. In around 2018, that is when the new law, the new felony murder law, was going, into the ruling for, like the board to, rule on if this law is going to get passed or not. And I was going to the law library all the time. I was calling Kellen, and I was also talking to the legal secretary, who I'm also very close to, that was working at the office. Her name is Candy, and she would give me updates on the law as well and help send me paperwork. And in 2019, I believe it was 2019 in January, if I'm not mistaken, the law passed. And this is the Senate Bill 1437, which is the new law I was resentenced on. And because we followed this law for so long, we were one of the first people, to file a motion. Kellen filed it immediately because we knew that I qualified for this law. And we had our motion, and that is when I called my mom from prison, and she went to the court date, and it's just another like legal process of just the DA replying to the motion. So I didn't think anything of it. And that's when my mom said, she's crying. She's like, she conceded, the DA conceded, and that was meaning that the DA basically did not reply to our motion and did not fight against it, and pretty much just bowed out from the argument. And the obvious reason is because she knew that I qualified for the law, and she did not have an argument against it. So we won the motion, and I was resentenced on the underlying felony, and the max for that was 5 years. So they resentenced me to 5 years, and I did exactly 5 years when I got resentenced. So I was released. I went back to prison after my resentencing in, I believe, March of 2019, and I went back to Chowchilla for the remaining of my time. And I was released May 12th, 2019, which was Mother's Day. And since then, since my release, I got off parole early. I paid my restitution. I kept the job. I was working, a parolee job where you're picking up trash. You're picking up trash on the side of the freeway, wearing the vest. It's kind of just chump change. And then from that job, I met, Terrell Baker, who was, the manager of that crew. And then I got into the Europe program, and I went to college for 6 months, and then I earned an internship at Airbnb, and I was there. And then I started working for another lawyer, for an appeal lawyer. And then I started working at a venture capital. And this was very difficult in a way, but I just kept going. And I never gave up. And I know I would never go back to prison because I would never go back. And I knew I wasn't someone that was likely to reoffend, because I'm just not likely to reoffend. And I say this in the most humble way, that I came home and I am very much successful after everything. In the aspect of just, usually when people come home, or it happens a lot when you come home, you reoffend, or, it's very difficult to get into the workforce, especially the type of workforce that I was in. Like Airbnb and all these corporate things. And that is why I'm also sharing my story, because that's part of my story. I'm not here to profit off of the crime itself. That is part of the story, because that is where everything began. And there are many lessons that you can learn, from the crime itself. of just, friends, from, knowing who is really in your circle. As I said, the victim and co-defendant number one were friends, and I was in a relationship with co-defendant number one, and it was not real. And there were, a lot of red flags of, he was already in the streets, and, all of this type of stuff of trying to save somebody, and, those are red flags. Like, you can't save anybody, and, to keep the grass low, because there are, people that are close to you that you wouldn't think will put you in harm's way or harm you, and it does happen. And it also, I don't want to say too much on him, but nor am I saying that he has all these issues, but also with, from co-defendant number one, I think there's a lesson in that if you are a young man and you are having obviously there's some type of mental going on for you to do these type of things, that you need to get help. You need to get help. I need to get help. Why do I feel like I can save somebody? We all need to address the issues, especially mental health ones, if there are any, because if you don't address them, they could turn you into, like a monster. Because I believe that mental has a lot to do with things. And when I was incarcerated, also, that is when I found out about co-defendant number one's other charges. I did not know that he had 2 other, murder charges until I was incarcerated. And that ties in also into the mental, what I was saying, because there's obviously some type of there's some type of mental going on, on that subject. With all that to say, I hope this video fills in a lot of the gaps that I left out in my interview with Ian. My goal and mission of sharing my story and all the things, that I've overcame, that I've learned, is to create change, is, this, by sharing, I could prevent something like this from happening, just to give the knowledge to somebody, a young girl who thinks that they can, save their man or woman or whoever, and how easily, you can just get tied into things. I'm here to give hope to there are many other cases like mine. I've already received some messages from people who have also been resentenced on this, and there's a lot of people still waiting, to get resentenced on this law, and this is to give hope to them that, you can, come home if you meet the requirements, of course, and you can still, be successful out here without having to go back to, the streets. And I will continue on with my channel and continue sharing my story. I will not be, based on the crime, but more so, I'm here to talk about, myself and the obstacles I faced while I was incarcerated, how I overcame them, the personal challenges that I had and how I overcame them. How did I, successfully rehabilitate myself, to come into, back into the society? What have I done now that I'm in society, to secure these jobs, to work in corporate and venture capitals and all this stuff, that it is possible for someone who was incarcerated to accomplish the goals that they want. And I just want to give hope to the people, and I will continue to do so. I will have Kellen Cooper, my lawyer, on my next video to give you all just, more information from a lawyer, from an actual lawyer, on, what really is the law, like what are the qualifications, just go into more legal details on that. And I hope that you all continue to tune in if you would like to. And thank you for watching this part 2. And stay tuned. Thank you.